All right, and we will wrap up here with cadences. A cadence is like a punctuation mark in grammar or in a sentence. They're oral indicators for us as musicians to separate musical thoughts. And as we're listening to music, it's very important to be able to distinguish between what kind of punctuation mark we're actually hearing. Are we hearing a comma or are we hearing a period? So a cadence is created by chord progressions, which, in other words, are movements of chords in a piece of music. The aural differences between certain cadences has to do with the tones themselves that make up the chords that are moving. So remember, we discussed how certain tones in a scale have an attraction or a gravitation towards one another. This is really what's behind certain cadences sounding either stronger or weaker than others. Your book discusses three important types of cadences, and we'll hear them now. The first is a half cadence, an authentic cadence, and then lastly a plagal cadence. So a half cadence is like a comma in a sentence, meaning it tells our ear that another idea is going to be following shortly after it. Half cadences are achieved when a chord progression ends on a dominant chord, or in other words, a 5 chord, a chord that is built off of the 5th note of the scale. A dominant chord is made up of 2 scale tones that naturally are drawn back to the tonic or the keynote, and those are the 5th and the leading tone. So let's listen to what a chord progression that ends in a half cadence sounds like. Now you can hear that our ear naturally wants to go back to C, which was our tonic note. And that gravitation or that pull is caused by, again, the 5th note and the leading tone or the 7th note of the C major scale. Next, let's talk about an authentic cadence. An authentic cadence occurs when a dominant chord, or in other words a 5 chord, is followed or resolved by the tonic chord. So in the last example, we sort of were hanging there in suspense on the dominant chord and there was no resolution. In this situation, though, in an authentic cadence, there is resolution. And this is more like a period instead of a comma. Take a listen. So you can hear how there is a finality or a resolution to that type of a cadence. And then the last type of cadence that your book discusses that's important to know about is called a plagal cadence. Now, a plagal cadence doesn't have as strong of an attraction as an authentic cadence. And the reason behind that is that the leading tone and the 5th, the tones that made up the 5 chord, are not present here. A plagal cadence occurs when the 4th chord, or the 4 chord of a scale built off of the 4th note, moves back to the tonic note. So take a listen to what a plagal cadence sounds like. That type of a cadence is very, very common in a lot of church hymns and even popular music. The tension and release that you hear is actually created between the 4th and the 3rd note of the scale. So in this case, what we were really hearing was Okay, well that wraps up our supplemental videos. Please feel free to email me with any questions, and I hope that these videos helped to give you a secondary perspective on these topics.